After directing Avengers Endgame, which I think at this moment of time is actually the second highest grossing movie because they've re-released Avatar in theatres in China, that still didn't stop people from being excited for what the Russo Brothers would do in the next project. And that next project is Cherry. I was very excited for this movie as well as many others, so without further ado, let's get into my review of Cherry. Cherry stars Tom Holland as an army medic suffering from PTSD who becomes a serial bank robber after an addiction to drugs puts him in debt. This is my second review of a Tom Holland movie this week. Chaos Walking didn't exactly go to plan or how he would expect it to have gone, but this is a much more serious and big project, so let's see if he can do better and if the movie overall can do better. So first of all, into my positives for Cherry. The past couple of years, ever since he was introduced into the MCU, Tom Holland has only really played Peter Parker. He has played some roles outside of it. You know, he was a voice actor in Spies in Disguise and Onward. And he also did a movie last year which I really enjoyed called The Devil All the Time. But here it required a lot of versatility and go into some directions that I haven't seen him done before, and I think he hasn't actually done these sort of roles before, and I can confirm that he did a superb job. Really shows that he is a top class actor who can do just more than comic book movies. I don't expect him to win any awards, you know, one of the highest awards, but he's definitely done a good job for everyone to see. I doubt there's anyone who's going to say he's done a bad job. There are people who think he has been miscast for the way he looks, but I think he did a really great job, and I hope to see him in more roles similar to this in the future. The story is really tragic, and you see Tom Holland descend into making poor life decisions that you don't want to see someone make. It's really displayed well, and that makes for really engaging scenes between Tom Holland and Kiara Bravo, who also did a great job in this movie. One thing which is talked about a lot from this movie is the cinematography and just how stylish it is. It is superbly filmed with some really great shots, which once again just shows how good of directors the Russo brothers are. But unfortunately, that is all I have to say on the positive front. Now, moving into my negatives for this movie. I said it was a very stylish movie, filled with great shots and great cinematography, but unfortunately that's also its downfall. There is too much, it feels too stuffed in, and it does make for some over-the-top scenes. I went into this movie knowing that's the main thing people had said about this movie, and I thought, surely it can't be that bad. Surely a lot of stylish things are good, but when I came into it, it was very distracting, especially with one shot where it's meant to be shot from inside Tom Holland's butt, so stuff like that. It was really distracting, and you know, especially since this is a long movie, by the time you're 2 hours in, you're like, okay, yes, we get it, you're good at these sort of shots. I'm not saying it's showing off, but it's like just too much from that point. You don't need this many different types of shots to display how much of a good director you are, because we already know it since you had a movie which was the highest grossing of all time. Now, from the very beginning of this movie, the narration was very distracting and, in fact, very poor. Narration, it can kind of fill in some gaps or enhance your viewing of a movie, whether it tells you something, an emotion, a thought that the person can't really display, or fills in some background information, etc. Right from the beginning, it has Tom Holland walking down the street, looking at trees and saying, wow, trees are good, or whatever, stuff like that. The narration in here really just points out the obvious and doesn't indicate more than what we can already see. There was also this really odd thing, also straight from the beginning. So they had the narration as he's walking down the street, and then as he's going to rob a bank, everything around him pauses and he breaks the fourth wall to talk to the camera. I was like, okay, I'm not a big fan, but I could get used to it. But then after that scene, it's gone until maybe about an hour and 45 minutes into the movie when it returns. So that was really inconsistent, and that's unfortunately one of the problems with this movie, is how inconsistent it is. Once it gets to this army section, it really slows down and kind of drags at points. Obviously, you can't just gloss over and fast forward through an army section. You need to devote time to it to get that impression of what that person went through. But like, the quality of this movie was kind of decreased when it hit this moment. You didn't resonate with the character as much, and you didn't really enjoy the viewing as much, as there wasn't much to enjoy seeing there. It looked great. Obviously, like, this whole movie looked great, but there wasn't much flavour in those scenes to make me feel like they were properly in the army. Now, I'm a big fan of Tom Holland. I have expressed that in my Chaos Walking review. But if you take him out of the lead role, in fact, if you take him out of the movie and put in a lesser known actor into the lead, I have to admit, I'm not sure I would have been as interested in this movie. Not the movie overall, in just how the movie plays out. I don't think I would have found it as interesting, and I wouldn't have been engaged. So it's easy to be engaged in a movie when there's an actor you really like in it. So that's me kind of saying that if you put in an actor which was lesser known, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. I am aware that this is a movie based off of a book, and that book is kind of semi-based off the author of that. So I mean no disrespect in what I'm about to say, but the story from a film point of view, not from the story from his life, but in terms of making it into a movie, it didn't really touch on anything that we hadn't seen before, so it didn't stand out as much. But just to make that clear, if you're telling that story, it's a great story, but to translate it into film, we have seen that before, so I mean no disrespect to the author and who this is based off of. So to cap off my negatives, Cherry was a movie which was one of my most anticipated of the year, as it had the Russo Brothers and Tom Holland, but I'm disappointed to say that it failed to live up to expectations. And going into this, I saw reviews where everyone was saying that, and I thought, maybe I could handle it, maybe I could enjoy it more, but I tried to, but at points it was just too much to try and enjoy it. That's not to say it's a bad movie, because it is a solid movie, it's well shot, well acted, but just quite underwhelming. I'm as disappointed as anyone to say that Cherry did not meet expectations, which is annoying because I was really looking forward to this and was really excited for this. I don't regret watching it. Watching through it, I still got a lot of things out of it and saw that Tom Holland can act, and the Russo Brothers, even though over the top, they can direct a movie. So it was a really, really difficult movie to score. In fact, I think it's the most difficult one I've done this year, because it's well made, but it's very disappointing. But just because it's very disappointing doesn't make it a bad movie. So in terms of score for Cherry, I'm going to give it a 69%, but it had potential to be a lot better. Let me know what you thought of Cherry, and if you could please like and subscribe, that would really mean a lot. If you want to see that Chaos Walking video, I'll leave a clickable card up for it in the corner here. But anyway, I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you in my next one.